Hello there, you're watching Nightline and I'm Anita Wu. The top stories. Tun M slams UN for its inaction in resolving Rohingya crisis, which has displaced more than 1 million people in the country. And the takeover of TIA by 1MDB is to hide Jho Loh's misdeeds, says witness. Our opening story. Strong winds during a storm on Wednesday uprooted trees in several areas in Pulau Penang, causing minor traffic congestions. The winds up to 40 kilometers per hour also caused the roof of a temple to be blown off. However, no injuries were reported. State Environment Committee Chairman P. Bunpo said the strong winds, which started at 4:20 p.m, subsided at about 5:20 p.m. He said the wind was from the northwest towards the southwest. However, this is not the Lorenzo hurricane, and he said there is no need for alarm. He said the police and public were in the process of clearing the roads and getting rid of the fallen trees and branches. On to Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak's 1MDB trial. The takeover of Terengganu Investment Authority Berhad, or TIA, by One Malaysia Development Berhad, 1MDB, was to hide Dato Sri Najib's misappropriation in the Islamic Medium Term Notes, or IMTN bond of 5 billion ringgit, applied for by TIA. Former 1MDB and TIA Chief Executive Officer Dato Sharul Azrul Ibrahim Halmi said the takeover of TIA by 1MDB on an as-is, where-is basis was planned by Taek Jho with the blessing of Dato Sri Najib to hide his misappropriation during the 5 billion ringgit IMTN bond issuance with government guarantee in May 2009. Testifying at the Kuala Lumpur High Court on Wednesday, Dato Sharul said Jho Loh had directed him to write a letter to Dato Sri Najib to ensure that 1MDB need not be audited. The 9th prosecution witness said Jho Loh asked him to write a 1MDB letter dated December 11, 2009 to the former Prime Minister on the excuse that it was Dato Sri Najib's request. In that letter, he said 1MDB talked about 1MDB updates and approvals, where TIA referred to the decision and approval of the 1MDB Board of Advisors, BOA, with regard to the direction of BOA on the takeover process of TIA by 1MDB. The key witness said he was not involved in initial discussions on the matter, but believed the content of the letter had been discussed earlier by Jho Loh and the former Prime Minister. Dato Sharul also confirmed that he received the 1MDB letter from Dato Sri Najib dated December 22, 2009. The letter stated that Dato Sri Najib acknowledged that the 1MDB BOA agreed with the federalisation of TIA into 1MDB as approved by the Cabinet on an as-is, where-is basis, and there was no need for an audit and due diligence by the Auditor General because the share ownership transfer had been done. He also testified that Dato Sri Najib also agreed with the decision of the 1MDB Board of Directors that 1MDB, as a company incorporated under the Companies Act 1965, should be audited by a professional external auditor appointed by the BOD, and the need for the Auditor General to audit 1MDB did not arise at all. Meanwhile, the Kuala Lumpur High Court was also told that if an audit were to be conducted, it would reveal that $700 million from 1MDB was transferred into a company owned by fugitive businessman Taek Jho, or Jho Loh. Dato Sharul said an audit would have revealed that $700 million from the $1 billion meant for a 1MDB Petro-Saudi joint venture was transferred to Jho Loh's company, Good Star Limited. The 9th prosecution witness said there was no need for an audit exercise on 1MDB as the company had already appointed accounting firm Ernst & Young, and that an audit report would be submitted to Ministry of Finance Incorporated once it was ready. Dato Sharul also described Dato Sri Najib's relationship with the fugitive businessman Taek Jho, or Jho Loh, as a symbiotic relation. He explained that Jho Loh would execute what the former Prime Minister wants, and Dato Sri Najib's role was to approve whatever decisions that were required by the company and the government machinery. The trial before Judge Colin Lawrence Sakira continues on Thursday. In a related development, the Inspector General of Police, Tan Sri Abdul Hamid Badur, on Wednesday said police have managed to locate Lo Taek Jho, or better known as Jho Lo. The IGP also said the police are hopeful to bring back the businessman by end of the year to assist in investigations into the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB scandal.
Saya sebutkan tadi nanti saya memberikan janji kan, sebab dia dah menghilangkan diri lebih beberapa tahun dah, ya, jenayah ini berlaku. Jadi kalau saya berikan timeline sebelum hujung tahun ini, tapi saya akan cuba percepatkan kalau boleh lah sebelum hujung tahun ini saya mendapatkan keputusan.
The IGP said this at a forum on Wednesday. Lo faces charges in the United States and Malaysia over his alleged central role in the scandal of 1MDB founded by former Prime Minister Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak. Tan Sri Abdul Hamid said he believes Lo has the protection of someone who provided him a safe haven in a certain country. Police investigations also revealed that he is free to move around and is able to run his businesses without any restrictions. The IGP, however, did not name the country, but confirmed that it has signed an extradition treaty with Malaysia. Speaking on another matter, Tan Sri Abdul Hamid on Wednesday has warned that police will no longer issue warnings against those who stoke racial wars. According to the IGP, the culprits will be arrested to give a message that the police are taking stern action. Cited a recent incident in Pulau Penang where a man who ran amok had killed his colleague and was in turn shot and killed by police. Tan Sri Abdul Hamid said that police investigations have found that the suspect was heavily influenced by violent videos from the Middle East that showed Muslims being violently persecuted. He pointed out that irresponsible parties who are attempting to fan racial and religious tension have uploaded defamatory articles regarding the tragedy. Such actions, according to the IGP, can trigger misunderstanding and cause upset, which could lead to physical violence.
So, jangan membuat rumusan apa sendiri. Perbuatan berkongsi, ya, artikel-artikel ini dan seterusnya membuat komen-komen tambahan akan menyebabkan orang-orang ini akan tangkap, melakukan kesalahan. So, saya ingin ingatkan lagi, ya, tidak ada amaran lagi. Tindakan terus dijalankan.
The IGP issued this morning at a media conference in Kuala Lumpur. He also warned the public from making unverified comments on social media regarding the Batu Arang shootout, which saw 3 men killed and a woman missing. Tan Sri Abdul Hamid said one of his officers had already lodged a report on the matter. Malaysian students evacuated from Indonesia will only return when the haze situation there improves. Education Minister Dr. Mazli Malik said a total of 160 Malaysian students will be evacuated on Wednesday and Thursday from Riau and Jambi in Indonesia after an emergency was declared in the area.
Kita bergantung kepada bacaan di sana lah. Tunggu semuanya dalam kembali pulih mengikut pengumuman yang akan dibuat oleh Republik Indonesia dan kita akan benarkan pelajar kita untuk pulang kembali belajar.
He was speaking to reporters after receiving 47 Malaysian students evacuated from Riau at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on Wednesday. The second batch of 31 students from Riau arrived at about 6 p.m, while the remaining 82 students from Riau and Jambi will return on Thursday. Meanwhile, some 120 students were evacuated to the Malaysia Hall in Jakarta as they could not return home because of some issues with their student visas. Was the Attorney General, AG, correct in appointing senior lawyer Dato Sri Gopal Sri Ram as ad hoc Deputy Public Prosecutor to conduct prosecution? The Federal Court has fixed October 15th to hear this case, initiated by the AG himself, Tan Sri Tommy Thomas. The move by the AG follows an attempt by Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak and his lawyer, Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah, to challenge the validity of Dato Sri Gopal's appointment at the Kuala Lumpur High Court. The High Court was earlier set to hear the case challenging Dato Sri Gopal's appointment on October 25th. However, that will now depend on the Federal Court's decision. Dato Sri Najib and Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi are challenging the AG's decision to appoint Dato Sri Gopal, that the provision was only applicable to deputy public prosecutors who were civil servants and who came under the Judicial and Legal Service. It was on August 31st last year that the AG had given Dato Sri Gopal and lawyer Dato Sulaiman Abdullah a license as deputy public prosecutors in the One Malaysia Development Malaysia Berhad, 1MDB and SRC International Sendirian Berhad cases. The Consumers Association of Penang, CAP, has written to Bank Negara Malaysia, BNM, for the central bank to intervene in the new transaction fees by banks. According to CAP President Muhyiddin Abdul Kadir, some banks are also planning to impose a 50-cent charge for use of the cheque deposit machines and RM2 for over-the-counter transactions. In a statement, Muhyiddin said that CAP learnt that certain banks would start imposing such charges from October 1st. Muhyiddin said CAP, who received feedback from bank customers, was waiting for a response from BNM on the matter. He also said that before January 1st this year, those who withdrew their fixed deposits, FD, before maturity would get some interest, but after January 1st, they would not earn any interest. Muhyiddin proposed that BNM abolish the charges to use the machines and over-the-counter transactions. In an immediate reaction, the Association of Banks in Malaysia, ABM, said the fee is to push customers to use the online banking platform. In a statement, it also pointed out that customers aged above 65 years, as well as the disabled, are not charged the RM2 fee for over-the-counter transactions. ABM, which represents 26 commercial banks in Malaysia, said such fees may be debited from customers' credit card or financing account. The association said most banks do not charge customers for bill payment and money transfer, whether online or through ATMs. ABM further noted that electronic transactions is the future of banking and will also mean cost savings. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad on Wednesday criticised the United Nations and Myanmar government for their inaction in resolving the Rohingya crisis, which has displaced more than 1 million people in the country. The Prime Minister said the 75-year-old organisation has not fulfilled its purpose of preventing such man-made atrocities. It was clear that the Myanmar government was unwilling to take any action to resolve the crisis. Tun Dr. Mahathir was speaking at the high-level side event on the Rohingya crisis, A Way Forward, held at the UN headquarters in New York.
For a start, the UN should play its role, taking into account that it was established in hopes of preventing future human-made miseries. Its silence is deafening. Without Security Council action, others must do their part to resolve the crisis and bring the perpetrators to justice.
Myanmar's military has been accused of murdering thousands of Rohingya in western Rakhine State since 2017, which has resulted in the mass exodus of these Muslim minorities to neighbouring countries, which led to the world's largest refugee camp at Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh. Tun Dr. Mahathir also commended the Organisation of Islamic Conference's effort to bring the matter to the International Court of Justice and hopes other countries would support OIC to ensure the perpetrators do not get away with the heinous crimes. Malaysia also plays its part in helping the Rohingyas by operating a field hospital in Cox's Bazar and hosting close to 100,000 registered Rohingya refugees. Speaking at the Columbia University's World Leaders Forum in New York on Wednesday night, Tun Dr. Mahathir expressed his disbelief that Myanmar people could still accept the atrocities against the Rohingya.
No Myanmar people wanting to overthrow this government, wanting to take the risk and fight against the government so as to remove a government that is obviously very cruel. And the whole world cannot do anything either. If Myanmar says you cannot come to my country, you just don't go. You cannot, you know something wrong is being done there. So there is a very clear weakness in the United Nations in that when it sees a government being absolutely brutal towards its own people, we can do nothing. We can preach, we can pray, we can ask them, please don't do such things, but they can continue doing it because we don't invade countries to remove such regime.
The Prime Minister is on a 5-day working visit to New York, which includes him addressing the United Nations.
We have tried to be fair.
Residents evacuated as chemical tanker overturned. More local stories when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Still on Nightline. The man who was shot dead by police in Puchong, Selangor on Tuesday was part of a human trafficking syndicate. Records also showed that the 37-year-old suspect had 11 previous criminal records. Selangor Police Chief Dato Nur Azam Jamaluddin said the man was ferrying 8 Myanmar illegal immigrants in a Porodua Alza car when his car was intercepted by police at about 7:30 p.m. after following it from Kelantan. Police were forced to fire 2 shots when he tried to ram his car into the cops. The suspect was killed on the spot, while a Myanmar national who was in the car was injured.
Pihak kami telah melaksanakan tangkapan. Dalam van tersebut terdapat 9 orang, 8 warga Myanmar dan seorang warga tempatan.
A check showed that the vehicle was modified with the back seats taken out to accommodate the 8 illegal immigrants. The suspect's body was sent to Serdang Hospital mortuary for post-mortem. Over in Perak, the occupants of 3 houses in Bagansarai have been evacuated after a chemical tanker carrying more than 20,000 litres of acetone overturned and landed in an irrigation canal early on Wednesday. The incident, which occurred at Kampung Parit Mentara 3 at about 5 a.m, forced authorities to evacuate residents whose homes were within 100 metres of the accident scene to prevent any untoward incidents. However, only 7 people were affected.
Berdasarkan penilaian kita juga, kita dapati bahan ini boleh menyebabkan kebakaran. Dia highly flammable. Kemudian, dengan kita juga telah mengosongkan rumah-rumah yang berhampiran dalam jarak 100 meter mengikut panduan yang sedia ada. Selain daripada itu juga, kita juga berusaha dengan mendapatkan maklumat dari pemandu untuk mengarahkan syarikat bahan ini untuk hadir ke lokasi bagi memindahkan segera bahan ini ke dalam tangki yang sepatutnya dan dibawa keluar dengan segera. Selain daripada itu juga, kita menasihatkan masyarakat setempat untuk tidak terlalu panik dengan apa yang berlaku, tetapi bagi kerjasama kita untuk mengosongkan kawasan ini buat sementara.
He said there was also a small leak that enabled the chemical to flow into the canal. Firefighters had taken steps to cool the tank to reduce heat that could cause fire. The chemical company later arrived at the scene to transfer the chemical into another tanker. A total of 30 firefighters were involved in the operation. Acetone can cause shortness of breath if trapped in a closed environment. In Johor, a husband and wife, both senior lecturers at a public university, were charged at the Johor Bahru Sessions Court for corruption and abuse of power. Both claimed trials when the charges were read out before Judge Wan Muhammad Nurisham Wan Yaakob. Mazlida Abdul Rahman, a senior lecturer at a university in Segamat, Johor, was charged with using her position to propose a company owned by her brother-in-law. Meanwhile, her husband, Muhammad Zul Azmi Ishaq, faces 3 charges of abetting his wife. The charge under the MACC Act provides imprisonment of up to 20 years and a fine of not less than 5 times the amount of the gratification, or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher upon conviction. In Kedah, police have crippled the 3D car theft gang with 4 arrests in Penang. State Police Chief Dato Zainuddin Yaakob said that the first 3 arrests were made on September 18th, when 3 members of the gang were caught red-handed while in the midst of stealing a car at the station's parking lot. After the arrests of the trio, interrogations led to the arrest of one of their friends and a 50-year-old buyer of the stolen parts. The 3 gang members and the buyer have been remanded until Thursday to assist with the investigation for motor vehicle theft and for the concealment of stolen property. In Malacca, an elderly man who went missing while jogging with a group of friends in an oil palm estate in Alor Gajah has been found safe. The 73-year-old, who is the father of Kota Malacca MP Koo Poi Tiong, was found 14 hours after he was reported missing. The Malacca Fire and Rescue Department activated a search and rescue mission at 1 a.m. Wednesday morning after a missing persons report was lodged. They found Koo at 8:35 a.m. after he managed to walk back by himself to the site where a temporary operations centre was set. The 73-year-old sustained minor injuries after falling while jogging and was sent to Alor Gajah Hospital. 4 bodies recovered from crashed Indonesia cargo plane. The details when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We move on to the foreign front. The United States on Wednesday announced sanctions on Chinese companies for buying Iranian oil, stepping up pressure despite European attempts to arrange talks between Washington and Tehran. Speaking on the sidelines of the United Nations, U.S. Secretary of State Michael Pompeo said the actions were in response to violations of unilateral U.S. sanctions.
Today, we're imposing sanctions on certain Chinese entities for knowingly transporting oil from Iran, contrary to United States sanctions.
He also said that sanctions were being placed both on the companies and on their chief executives. The new penalties come as President Donald Trump has been signaling his interest in starting talks with Tehran, and U.S. allies have been pushing the two countries to begin a dialogue. China, which is embroiled in a series of disputes with the U.S., including a trade war, is believed to be the biggest foreign buyer of Iranian oil. U.S. President Donald Trump is wasting no time in attempting to torch House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's formal impeachment inquiry in a battle that will define his presidency and the 2020 election. Trump reportedly has pledged to publish an unredacted and declassified transcript on Wednesday of a phone call with Ukraine's leader, at the center of what Democrats allege is his abuse of presidential power. The White House is also planning to release to Congress a whistleblower's complaint that triggered the week-long crisis that has rocked the Trump presidency. It is understood that if the inquiry moves forward, the House of Representatives will vote on any charges. And with the Democrats in the majority, the vote would likely be carried, making Trump the third president in U.S. history to have been impeached. The proceedings would likely then stall in the Senate, where the president's Republican Party holds enough seats to prevent him from being removed from office by a two-thirds majority. Over in Indonesia, the bodies of 4 passengers on a cargo plane that went missing in the jungles of Papua a week ago have been recovered on Wednesday. According to authorities, the bodies were discovered near the wreckage of the small plane in a mountainous area in Hoya district. All the remains would be transported to the General Hospital in Timika district for autopsy. Rescuers would continue the operation on Thursday with a focus on search for the black boxes of the plane. The plane, carrying 3 crew, a policeman and 1.7 tons of rice, was declared missing after it failed to land hours after taking off from the city of Timika for a short flight to Ilaga. Moving on to rugby, the 2019 World Cup. Uruguay produced the first major shock at the championship as they stunned Fiji to a 30-27 victory on Wednesday. The game started at a hurtling pace, with both sides registering an early try, but it was Uruguay who had the upper hand as they led 24-12 at half-time. Fly-half Felipe Berkesi kicked 2 penalties to keep Los Ceros in front throughout the second half, finishing with 3 conversions and 3 penalties for 15 points. His last penalty in the 75th minute gave Uruguay an 8-point lead, and it proved decisive in securing only their 3rd win at a World Cup. With the win, Uruguay jumped to 3rd in Pool D with 4 points and will next face Georgia on Sunday. One of the world's longest water slides was unveiled in Malaysia on Wednesday, a kilometre-long chute that starts on a hill before twisting and turning through dense jungle and splashing into a pool. The blue and yellow chute at the Escape theme park has been awarded the Guinness World Record, beating the previous record-holding slide in Germany. Let's have a look at this big splash. I'm Anita Wu. Thank you for tuning in and take care.